Welcome back, learners. We're thrilled to have you back for another engaging session of Global English Competitiveness. Today, we're progressing to the third part of this unit, 6C, completing the library borrower's card. Prepare your pen and paper as we embark on a journey to discovering the necessary documentation to get the books we're interested in outside the library. To recap, we have 4 can-do objectives in this unit. First, to interact with the librarian. Second, to express intent or interest in borrowing books. Third, to identify parts of a library borrower's card. And fourth, to express intention in returning books. As you can remember, we have already covered our first 2 can-do objectives. You learned how to interact with the librarian. And in the previous lesson, you learned how to express intent or interest in borrowing books. This time, let's tackle our third can-do objective, to identify parts of a library borrower's card. Without further ado, let's move over to our third lesson, 6C, completing the library borrower's card. And here are the sub-lessons that will help us achieve our objective: vocabulary, grammar, and listening. To begin, what is a library borrower's card? The library borrower's card, or more accurately, the borrower's identification card, is the ticket to a library's resources. The card is used to identify the bearer as a registered borrower and provides information commonly in the form of a barcode. It can help the librarian to have an accurate borrowing record for the charging or circulation process of the library's resources. To acquire a library borrower's card, you need to approach the librarian and tell them you want to get one. You will be given a registration form and will be asked to fill out necessary information. You will be asked to have a photo to be placed on your library borrower's card identification. Once you're done processing your library borrower's card, you are ready to borrow books. Now let's practice your vocabulary skills on library borrower's card details. The direction is for you to identify the parts of a library borrower's card. Take note that the library card details are provided in the box. For example, this is the assigned number for student as part of his or her identification. The correct answer is student number. Now pause the video and answer items number 1 to 5. Now continue answering the rest of the items. Here are the correct answers. Now moving on to our grammar lesson, we'll be talking about relative clauses. A relative clause is introduced either by a relative pronoun or a relative adverb. The main English relative pronouns are which, that, who, and whom. Who is used when the pronoun is performing the action, while whom is used when it is the recipient of the action. Meanwhile, which and that both refer to something previously mentioned when introducing another clause. The difference between them is which introduces a non-essential clause, meaning the sentence can still survive even without that, and that introduces an essential one. Here's an example. The student blank borrowed the book was my best friend. What is the correct relative pronoun to use? The answer is who. The student who borrowed the book was my best friend. The correct answer is who, since the relative clause introduces the subject of the sentence, the student, which is a person. When the subject introduced is a person and is the doer of the action, the relative pronoun to use is who. Here's another example. The book which I am reading is very interesting. Which is the relative pronoun used in this example since it introduces a thing, which is the book. Also, the relative clause, which I am reading, is considered non-essential. Now, supply the missing relative pronoun to complete the following sentences. For example, the student who borrowed the book was a senior class officer. Again, we use who to refer to the student. Now pause the video and answer items number 1 to 5. Here are the correct answers. Now moving on to our next grammar lesson. A relative adverb is a type of subordinating conjunction that introduces an adverb clause. Some examples of relative adverbs are the following: where, when, and why. For places, we use where. For time, we use when. And for reason, we use why. For example, the library is where students can learn and enjoy reading their favorite books. Again, the correct relative adverb here is where because we're talking about the library, a place. Take a look at this another example. The speaker says, I think mornings are when we should read books best. When is the relative adverb used in this example since the adverb clause introduces time, which is mornings. Now that you have understood relative adverbs, let's do an activity. In this activity, you're going to choose the correct relative adverb to complete the sentences. For example, the flickering light of the library is the reason why it looks creepy. We use why because we're talking about reason. Now pause the video and answer items number 1 to 5. Here are the correct answers. Let's proceed to the listening skills. This is a monologue of the librarian giving instructions to the book borrower. I will serve as the librarian, so listen carefully. As a librarian, it is my duty to provide you with the necessary information you need to know regarding the proper borrowing procedures. The book you're about to borrow, Being Her by Lindsay Gray, is an exceptional choice, which is why we highly encourage you to take care of it. First, please be informed that to borrow any book from our library, you will need to fill out a borrower's card, which is a requirement for us to have a record of our books and borrowers. This contains personal information such as your name and contact details. In addition, please avoid writing or highlighting any part of the book as it can damage the pages and affect its readability. Also, please do not fold the pages or remove any parts of the book, including the book cover, as this can cause irreparable damage. Lastly, please keep the book in a safe and secure place away from any potential damage. Should you encounter any issue or concern regarding the book, do not hesitate to approach our library staff for assistance. We hope that you find this information helpful, and we look forward to seeing you again soon. For our last activity, let's check your listening comprehension skills. Answer the following items by choosing the letter of the correct answer. Pause the video and start answering now. Here are the correct answers. And with that, we have covered our third can-do objective, which is to identify parts of a library borrower's card. In this lesson, we enriched your vocabulary on library card details. We also discussed relative clauses. And you listened to a librarian's instructions to a book borrower. I hope you found this lesson as enriching as I did. Unit 6C wraps up here. I look forward to our next encounter in the upcoming lessons.